Hey folks, Matthew Weiss here, WeissAdvice.com. I want to show you a simple trick to make your delays more effective. But first, what is a delay? If you're not familiar with the device, this signal processor takes a signal and simply delays the playback in time. So maybe it receives a snare drum, and then out the other end, the snare drum comes half a second later. Pretty simple, that's why it's called a delay. Typically, when we use delays, what we do is we take the source that we want to create some kind of an echo effect from, and we create a send path, meaning we make a copy of the signal and then deliver it to the delay unit. This way we have our main signal going, and then we have our echo returning a little bit later in time. I'll show you an example. Here we go. Let's take this little verse right here.
For one step forward, that's two steps backward. Our love was so solid and now it's fractured.
Sonically speaking, we're in a pretty good place, but it feels a little bit dry, meaning it doesn't feel like there's a lot of elements providing a three-dimensional sense of space to it, and perhaps adding something like that would give us a more enjoyable experience. So I'm going to open up a delay. The way I have this set up, I'm using an aux path, that's this fader. It's creating a copy that's much, much quieter than the dry sound, which is, of course, the vocal itself. And then it's coming down to this path, which I've labeled aux3. I'm going to rename it quarter delay. A quarter note is a very commonly used delay. It is the pulse of the track. It's what we measure in our beats per minute. And so basically at 106, it means for every minute we get 106 of these echoes. That's going to determine the speed in which the echo is coming. And a quarter note is probably the most commonly used one. So let's play this down.
For one step forward, that's two steps backward. Our love was so solid and now it's fractured. We're stuck together, we're like some magnets. Lost our attraction, don't know what happened.
Okay, let's relax. So we have this delay, but it doesn't sound particularly good. It's kind of cluttering things up. Now, the most obvious thing that we could do is simply turn it down. And truthfully, there's a lot of records that use eighth and quarter note delays all the time that we just don't really hear because they're kind of tucked low and they're just providing a sense of dimensionality and a sense of groove. Sometimes those are called ghost delays. Sometimes they're just called quiet delays. Pick your poison, I guess. But I want to show you a technique for really making your delays a little more effective, a way of getting them a little bit more audible while at the same time not making them so cluttered. So right now, the way this is set up is a full band delay, meaning the signal has tone that's going from 100 hertz up to like 20K. So full frequency spectrum. But for the delay, we don't necessarily need all of that information. We could probably pare it down. I would say we probably don't need the lowest of the tones, although I think the fundamental tone of the vocal, meaning the core heart of where the vocal is living, which is around 200 hertz in this particular case, I think I'd like to keep a fair amount of that, so I'm going to set a high-pass filter at 220 hertz here, and that's going to eliminate all of the bass tones that are coming through. I'm going to then also do the same thing for the low pass. Now here's the thing, the low pass, I can be a lot more assertive with that, because in truth, the bulk of the vocal is living really in the like 200 hertz to 1K range. Everything above that is giving us tone and texture and harmonics and good stuff that we like on the lead vocal, but not necessarily stuff that we need in the delay. So I'm going to take this low pass and I'm going to cut it all the way down to 2.5K. Now let's listen to it.
For one step forward, that's two steps backward. Our love was so solid and now it's fractured. We're stuck together, we're like some magnets. Lost our attraction.
And now, even though the delay is quite loud, it doesn't actually interfere with the lead vocal. It doesn't clutter up the mix nearly as much, but we've got plenty of it. So now we can back this off, we can find a level that's fitting, and because we're using a band-limited version of this delay, we're going to ultimately settle on a louder delay than what we would have if we weren't. So I'm going to take this down, let's try maybe 9 dB, and see if that feels a little better.
For one step forward, that's two steps backward.
Yeah, so I didn't even need to take it down that much, and that has really improved things. Now, you could use a delay where you have filters already built in, which is what I'm doing here, or you could simply take your delay and then put an EQ after it and put on your own high pass and low pass. That would be fairly simple. Or you could use a delay that has some kind of a stylistic color to it that already includes some kind of band limiting, which is what I actually did on this record. I'm using this particular delay model, and I'm using something called the tape delay vintage. And that vintage happens to be rolling off some top end and rolling off a fair amount of bottom, and it ends up sounding like this.
For one step forward, that's two steps backward. Our love was so solid and now it's fractured. We're stuck together, we're like some magnets.
So when we hear it after I let go of the record and it trails off, we get a better idea of what it actually sounds like.
For one step forward, that's two steps backward.
And you can hear it feels a little bit rolled off and murky. You'll also notice that it's spread across the stereo field. That's a little added benefit that makes this even easier to get to fit in the record. Because it's not living directly in the center, it's living on the sides, it actually provides a little bit more room for the things that are living in the center, like the lead vocal, which is what is feeding the delay unit. So this also allows me to have a little bit more delay than what I would normally have. There's a lot of tricks to this. There's a lot of techniques that we can use. Another really good one is sending your delay into your reverb. So if you also have a reverb on your vocal, you can put an aux from your quarter note delay, which you can see right here. This is being sent to the verb. I have my verb printed, and if we listen to it, you'll notice that in the tail of the verb, you'll hear the delay.
For one step forward, that's two steps backward. Our love was so solid and now it's fractured.
So this combines with our delay to create a delay that's a little bit more interesting, provides a little bit more energy, and a little bit more depth. So these techniques can take what would normally be a bland delay that might take up a little bit too much room in the mix and makes it something that fits in a lot more easily and also provides a little bit more tone, texture, and dimensionality. If you dig this video, I should mention that I have an entire full-length tutorial that gets very in-depth into how you can use delay. Delay is a very simple idea in principle, but there's a lot of very interesting, complex things that you can do with it. That is called Mixing with Delay. The link is going to be in the description below. Anyway, if you dig this video, hit that like button. If you want to catch more videos like this, click subscribe with the bell notification so you get notified. And you know what we say here at Weiss Advice. We are musicians, sound is our instrument, and I will catch you next time.